So far we've seen impact of social media on brands and things like that. But the another very interesting aspect of social media has been on art, right? How many of us really would think that art means that you still go to a gallery and do the auctions and stuff like that? But social media has really changed it, and there's lots going on that. And to discuss this more, we have a rather interesting panel discussion coming up now. It says, is social media the new art gallery? And to do this, I would request on stage Farah Siddiqui, Director of FSCA and a specialist in contemporary art from Southeast Asia. Farah?
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for the kind introduction. As the cliche goes, they say that a picture is worth 1,000 words. Joseph Beuys, who you may not know of, is a very famous German artist, widely regarded as the most influential artist of the second half of the 20th century, famously declared that every man is an artist. Hans Ulrich Obrist, a very, very famous curator of our times, has said the boundaries between professional artists and non-professional artists were not as close back as they're often portrayed today. Obrist, for those of you who don't know, has over 100,000 followers on Instagram. Since its inception in 2010, Instagram has transformed the relationship between art and art lovers in unprecedented ways. With approximately 400 million users and about 70 million photographs that go onto Instagram every day, this is an incredible virtual art gallery. The app has even become an artistic medium in its own right. Movie star Pierce Brosnan visited a showroom of Phillips Auction House earlier this year, and he posted for a quick photo op in front of designer Mark Newson's design piece, and also captioned it, "Let the bidding commence." Later that week, the auction house broke the world record for the design object, selling it at 3.7 million. There's great potential to shake up the art world, if not the foundation, at least on the edges, with a new currency, the likes and the followers. There are many other interesting aspects of social media and the arts, and I'd like to invite the two panelists on board. This is Tushar Sethi and Jatin Kampani. Tushar Sethi heads Asta Guru. It's an online portal and very successful auction house. Taking over from his father about a decade ago, which was a brick and mortar art gallery, it's now an online auction space. So, Tushar and Jatin Kampani. Jatin started his career in 1996 and has been featured consecutively in Archive Special Edition of 200 Best Ad Photographers Worldwide. He's worked with numerous publications and also runs a very interesting portal called Merchants of Cool with his partner, which is promoting online photography as an art form in India. So shall we begin?
Diving without fail is a meditation. It is not a form, it is a meditation. For me, I'm taking pictures with the reason, obviously the idea is to share, and I truly believe whatever, especially the close-up world, which I've realized lately, there's either two disciplines in photography. It's a lot of wide-angle, big seascapes, or then you go in with macro lenses into the many minute details in a reef. And photographing the minute details and seeing them later, you are totally blown away, because even in real life with the naked eye, you don't see it that way. And so I found macro photography absolutely fascinating. Everything for me in the ocean is art. It's creation, it's beautiful, it's spontaneous, it's magnificent. And to photograph that in a way which is aesthetic, pleasing, is then, I would guess, to say my humble expression and trying to be a photo artist. I have interacted with the ocean and the creatures for now, what is 15, 17 years. I've done more than 5,000 dives. That's equivalent to like 5,000 hours underwater. And I love nature. I love nature before I started diving, whether it's any animal. So then to communicate with these creatures, whether it's to look at a clownfish in the eye or try to, calm and sit in front of a stingray and, have an interaction, or have a manta ray just swim over your head or something. I always try to commune with the creatures. I looked at the space and I found it fantastic. Whoever was on there was envious of them. I was like, wow, dude, look at that, it's beautiful. I wish my work was up there. Now somebody's asked me, and it's a wonderful opportunity to get out there. I mean, I try to spread the word of the underwater world now, obviously through the images. As I said, there's one aspect is, to bring awareness. That's what it's all about that in the end of the day. It's about question of awareness and protection. More people who have access to it and see, man, that's a piece of the sea, that's glorious, look at that, it's a great thing to share. It's the only platform at the moment, for whatever it's worth. It's the only platform. As a photographer, I have no other way to reach out to the marketplace. I have no other place to share my work. It allows me to express that in a beautiful gallery-like format, put it up in series, collections, show it like I want it to be seen rather than just random imagery. Tell a story which is more than just about the individual images. So I think Merchants of Cool has allowed me to do that, and I'm very, very happy and excited to be up there. And so many people over the years have said, hey, where can we reach out, where can we get your work and all that. Now finally I can tell them, dude, go to Merchants of Cool and it's right there. It's easy and it's available, so it's fantastic.
Tushar, we'll start with you, because you come from a traditional space of a brick and mortar art gallery. And when you came into your father's business about a decade ago, you changed that. First of all, was there a lot of, the sense of change? Was it difficult for your father when you brought it in, and now it's a completely online space?
Hi. So yeah, definitely there was a massive change. Galleries going from a brick and mortar kind of platform with exhibitions to an online platform. There was opportunity that we saw 10 years ago, given the market was on an upswing, and we saw painting prices going from 2-3 lakhs to 70 lakhs over a period of 3 years. This resulted in people trying to chase certain artists, and the online platform gave that reach for people sitting across the world for them to access it.
And so do you think that social media is likely to displace brick and mortar eventually?
I doubt. I think social media goes hand in hand with the business aspect of things. It definitely, from the promotional angle, from the awareness angle, from the reach that it could result in achieving, as one mentioned, sharing, and as you mentioned, likes and sharing are the new currency. But changing the business aspect of it totally, each platform plays an important role in its own right. And we've got clients who have visited our Facebook pages from New York and got the awareness of our auction house and bought paintings worth crores. So it definitely played a role, but to be able to move that towards the social media angle and start auctioning things out there will be difficult. So that will have its own position, and this will have its own position.
So as a gallerist, you used to represent artists. Now with social media platform, it's also launching the career of a lot of under-the-radar artists. I mean, it's very easy to put your own artwork, and then your fans become your critics and collectors. So do you think that the traditional gallery space or the traditional structure of actually exhibiting art will change or is changing rapidly? And do you think it'll become redundant?
So generating awareness for the artist is what the gallery originally used to do. And basically that platform definitely social media has played an important role in taking away from the gallery, but the business of art is very different, and social media cannot interrupt with that. An artist, to become established, he doesn't necessarily have to be talented alone. He has to be part of museum shows, he has to have publications, he has to be in important collections, which results in his growth over a period of 10, 15 years. So generating the awareness, definitely, which galleries used to do by doing exhibitions. Today, online platforms, today technology has resulted in the reach that one can achieve. Geo being the new venture, which should result in a larger audience going online. I think the social media will definitely play a role in getting the awareness. The business of art is totally different.
So do you feel that the gatekeepers will still be there? Who will dictate what is high art, what is low art, what should be an artist and what should not be categorized as art?
So it's not about the gatekeepers, but so when you want to hire somebody in the role of marketing or whatever, you look at you look at their CV and you see what is the teams that they've represented, which companies have they worked in, what is the education that they've had, how many people have they worked together with, what is the kind of achievements that they have done. This is a general CV that you would generally analyze. Then you meet the person and you understand whether they can fit in your team. Similarly, when you look at an artist, you've got to see firstly, whether he's talented. Secondly, whether he's done museum exhibitions, whether he's been in auctions, whether he's done publications, whether he's part of important collections. And that would result in the growth process, whether it is in India, which could start off as the smaller seed, but then expand worldwide, where he has to be exhibiting in international museums, be part of international collections, which would result in him establishing himself in the art world, so to say. So social media could actually be utilized as an initial seed that one would plant, but the growth process has to be taken over by the gardener.
So do you actually look for artists on social media yourself?
I don't.
You don't?
My segment of art is extremely high-end, and we mostly now deal in very established artists, Hussain, Raza, Souza, the masters. So looking at the smaller segment there are thousands of artists that graduate every year from each art school, and there are 10, 15 artists that make it every decade. So it's very, very difficult to actually be able to become an artist that is very well established. It's not an easy task, and galleries who do it, I give it up to them, but it's difficult.
So you're not actually building an ecosystem for the arts. You want to be the top shark, right? You're feeding off everyone else.
I'm not trying.
Okay, my question again is about younger artists, or artists who graduate out of art school, like you rightly said, there are hundreds and thousands of artists. For them to use social media is a great marketing tool, isn't it?
Definitely.
So if gallerists like you, or pardon me, auction houses like you, or galleries, like I know that Hans Ulrich Obrist, who I mentioned earlier, is perhaps the greatest curator of our times. He scans Instagram on a daily basis, looking for artists, and then finally adding them to his roster whenever he's curating. So I think it's a very interesting medium for curators, perhaps, maybe not auction houses. Is that what you're trying to say?
So definitely a curator's job is to basically pick talent and try to promote them. A gallery's job is to contact curators and see which are the talented artists that they have spotted, and then get them under their belt. And once an artist reaches a certain platform, that's when the auction house picks him up and kind of auctions him off, because that is the point when there'll be hundreds and thousands of bidders who might be interested in a particular artist. I would say art has a lot to do with marketing. When you're looking at 20 years ago, 15 years ago, M.F. Hussain was one of the artists that everybody knew about. And whether it was him walking into a hotel barefoot, or his beard, or him roaming around with a brush, or whether he loved Madhuri Dixit and he saw Hum Aapke Hain Kaun 100 times a week or whatever, there was apparently a rumor that he had a seat available whenever he wanted to go and watch Hum Aapke Hain Kaun. These are all things that were part of his marketing activity and were part of his persona and were part of his image that resulted in everybody knowing him as such. And at that time, we didn't have the internet the way it was and the way it is today. So I think today's internet kind of skips all that, and talent, perception, awareness can be generated through social media, and I think it's the future.
Jatin, may I ask you a question now?
Sure.
You are a photographer. You have been for about 16 years, and you've started this platform, which is actually working with artists from a very nascent stage. You're curating collections and series which would be valued at relatively affordable prices for younger collectors. How do you find the art viewing experience in the hyperactive age? I mean, is anyone actually immersing in the art viewing experience, or they're quickly taking note of the image and embedded in their visual psyche and then coming back and buying it? Or do you think that they're actually immersing themselves in the art like you would in a physical environment?
Well, I'll actually answer that in two layers. One is, why did we intend to start Merchants of Cool? Basically, coming from an experience of more than 20 years of professionally shooting, I realized that there is so much work that an artist as a photographer has, which is unseen. There's no access. I mean, he's too intimidated to approach galleries because he's busy working on his own projects. But the limited means that he has to go and approach an art and do a show. And the works just stay in the archives and the world doesn't get to see it. I myself experienced that as well a lot of times. And when we actually see the number of people number of photographers rather, who have such beautiful volumes of work, it's never going to be able to reach out to the audience. And that's when we realized, it's so important to actually have, and online actually gives you that platform to sort of reach out to people, and basically be able to do something with their works. I mean, I think the biggest reward that an artist as a photographer has is basically to see his picture being put up on the wall, and I think through Merchants of Cool, through social media, through the online platform, we are able to actually materialize that dream for the photographer. So it's a win-win for both. So yes, I think penetration in social media is sort of difficult in today's times because the attention span of people is really, really low, and there is a lot of work out there. Apart from the fact that there are online galleries who are posting a lot of stuff, so are artists, and so are generally people at large who are out there reaching out to people. How do you actually differentiate, and what is the amount of time that you actually have to understand? And I think that video that we just showed actually was from the, artist's perception of, how he wants to tell his story. I mean, if you had seen that same picture that you probably saw in the video, would you have tried and given time to understand what the thought process was? I mean, 5,000 hours underwater, 5,000 dives. I mean, and that's only one of the photographers that we have on Merchants of Cool right now. We have 14 such artists, and the number is increasing. And there are so many stories that are to be told, and this is what we expect that people will actually create interest to. And I mean, I think our whole mission is basically to get art and design in people's everyday life. And we know for a fact that we'll be able to do it when we make that art affordable. And that's why, if you actually go to Merchants of Cool, it's all about affordable art, whether it's fashion accessories, whether it's utility, as we call it, which is furniture. I mean, I think the whole process is to get art and design. I mean, I think you'll have to let the audience evolve to appreciate design before they can actually get into expensive art.
Right.
So.
Right. So actually, Joseph Beuys, as I mentioned, he said that every man is an artist. And with the advent of camera, such high resolution, very good cameras, everybody thinks they're a photographer.
Sure.
Anybody can click a picture at any point of time, put it up on Instagram, use those multiple filters. So what is your opinion on that? Is Instagram, for example, killing photography slowly, or polluting it at least?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I'm actually honestly have been of the opinion that everybody is an artist. So, I mean, I genuinely believe that. It's just that they lend their expertise towards very different kind of art forms. I mean, I think somebody who's into a marketing job is equally artistic in the way he does it, or somebody who's an architect. I mean, any stream needs to be creatively done. And I think the kind of times that we are living in now, I think it's equally so important. There are no trade secrets at all. So I feel, any medium, there's always an abuse to technology. I think when Photoshop started, people used to say, how do you differentiate between what is analog and, what is uncorrupted by a Photoshop file? And, but there used to be people like Jerry Ullsman who used to manipulate images on their negatives. And there used to be people who used to, burn and dodge their black and white prints. I think to a certain level, even that was Photoshop,
right.
Because that's not how they captured it. So I'm not averse to, basically how the technology is being used, but it's also, I think, very, very important in terms of what kind of content are you actually going out there with. So anybody with a camera can actually take a picture today, but are they going to be able to tell a story with it? Or what is the story and how many people are going to be interested in it? And that's where I feel curation comes in.
Right.
This is today we are living in a tsunami of people wanting to express themselves. After a point, you'll also definitely get tired of expressing yourself, because is there really hard content that you want to really let people need to lend a ear to listen to your story as well. And that's where curation comes in. And I personally feel that, the moment curation comes in, you and the moment there's engagement, the moment there's interaction with the audience through this medium, and I think it's a phenomenal medium to kind of interact, and...
But 70 million images a day is very difficult to sort of, when you talk about curating, if you want somebody to edit this for you, actually everybody is curating their own art gallery on their own Instagram page. They're curating their own life, or actually the perception of what they want others to see. But the pictures are so beautiful. So, somebody would say the resolution is so good that I might just take a picture of that and put it up on the wall, print it. So my question is actually, how does Merchants of Cool differentiate being, like, for example, your picture could be from, they can go on your Instagram page and print it out. Isn't that right? Because you do use it as a mini studio in a way. Whatever you shoot, you do put it up on your Instagram
page. It's been a traditional practice. I don't think it's absolutely new. I know of a lot of hoteliers who do it. And they don't even need to download it. There are such beautiful books available that people can just tear out pages and frame it and put it up.
Right.
I don't think it's something that only you can do through social media as such.
Right.
That's something people have always been. It doesn't stop you from actually pulling out a picture from a magazine, framing it interestingly. And in fact, there have been artists who worked over certain images that they've actually really liked and created collages. I think the 60s and 70s saw such a beautiful time of people like Richard Hamilton and James Gill and all these guys who used to work on collage art. They were all actually photographs which they painted over, which were obviously not shot by them.
Right, like Richard Prince.
Yeah, so I think that's not a practice that you can actually stop. But how does it still stop? I think we are we've not even scratched the surface when it comes to understanding design and art as such. I think we are such an evolving audience right now who wants to appreciate it, and right now there's an opportunity. So I don't think we need to shy away from the fact that how is it going to, as far as you're not commercializing it, you're not using those pictures for commercial use. I think it's quite fair for people to use it at their discretion.
But like music industry, for example, it's rapidly changed in the last decade, which means that you can digitally download music, which has replaced CDs or cassettes even before that. And people are still coming out in big numbers to hear artists play live.
Sure.
So you would download a Coldplay song, but you would still go for the concert for 25,000 rupees a ticket, I believe, right?
I think it's experience-based as well. it's...
So you think that people are still going to be going to the Louvre, for example, and not going on the Instagram or the Google Cultural Institute page, which actually Google has come out with a very interesting medium, which is real-time interaction with museums. And you can go on to any museum and not pay a ticket, for example, or also after hours and experience the art. But would you rather go and stand in front of a Mona Lisa or Botticelli's Birth of Venus, or experience it online?
Well, I've just done it, actually. I just came back last week from MoMA and the Museum of Modern Art, where I've had little time in New York, but I spent most of the time actually in a museum. So there's a very different. See, it's all very experience based as well. I mean, I think it's about the time. I mean, if you have the access, to seeing something which interests you and hear a story online, I mean, I think it's a very interesting platform. But this still doesn't stop you from actually going and seeing that in physical form, because the experience of an art gallery is beautiful as well.
Right.
So.
I mean, you consider, I believe Amitabh Bachchan has 14 million people following him on Facebook, but somebody who wants to see Amitabh Bachchan live, it's not the same thing as taking a ticket and watching him on TV,
But you are in the online auction business. So would you still encourage people to come and see
because we deal in the extremely high-end product range,
Right.
I encourage people to see if they're looking at buying a painting for 1 crore or 20 lakhs or 30 lakhs, I would encourage them to see the physical work before they look at buying it.
Because however good photography is, you still need to see condition and size of the work in person and scalability of the artwork as compared to where you want to.
So, as I said before, I utilize social media as a platform to expand the awareness, and reach the audiences, but at the same time, the brick and mortar scenario remains.
There are a couple of interesting things that have been happening recently in the art world. One is the VIP art fair, which happened quite a few years ago, and also recently a new digital art play, which is again the same thing, that going online and experiencing in real time art fair or biennale, but so you don't have to be physically present to be in these spaces. So
I mean, the argument is the same. Would I see Amitabh Bachchan live or would I buy a ticket? So I'd rather go and see the Mona Lisa or the card player by Shazan, 1,200 crore rupee painting. I'd rather see it rather than see a picture of it.
Right. But I mean, you are in the business of art. So we are not talking about in a cultural space, because in the end, it's about the monies. Isn't it right?
No, so again, what I'm saying is the awareness through these platforms increases because of social media, Google, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, talking about it. But the experience by itself is something that one has to do.
And what do you think about the P.S. Brosnan story about the bidding frenzy that he started by posting a picture, and then it went eventually for $3.7 million. Do you think that that is a fantastic tool, or just happened by chance, or how would you engage with something like that?
I think the awareness was created, and that's, I guess, helped in.
Do you think that led to a rise in prices?
Sure.
It's a possibility.
So, general aspect of marketing results in more awareness. I believe Steve Wynn, the owner of one of the casinos in Vegas, had a Picasso, and while he was showing people around the casino, he, by mistake, put his hand through it, or it tore, or something, the story goes, and the painting became quite famous because he had actually bought it for $100 million. $100 million, 600 crore rupees for one painting. And when it tore, he sold it for $40 million more because it became more famous. So definitely the awareness can result in price appreciation, and social media, I would say, helps in that.
So give us an example of a bidding frenzy between two collectors on your online platform. Has there been?
Sure, there have been several.
So give us one interesting example.
I mean,
which has driven up the prices.
So art.
But do you still have to be on the phone with them, for example?
Sometimes.
Is it all online?
Sometimes. So art mostly, so me and Farah know each other for like 10 years and we are part of the same world. So she would know who I'm talking about. But art mostly is very specific driven, and there's certain artists that have made certain important works that certain collectors would love to chase. We had a small Ganesh Pine in our last auction. So our last auction actually took place in March, and we created 7 world records for Indian artists. And our last Ganesh Pine, it started the bidding at I think maybe 22 lakhs, and it sold for 2.2 crores. The bidding was between an Indian massive collector and a Japanese massive collector. We had a a painting by Ram Kinkar Bej, which started at 12 lakhs, and it sold for 1.9 crores. So, and it's all online. The painting was actually from 1920s or 30s. It was published in Rabindranath Tagore's book that used to come out every month. We managed to source the painting from a freedom fighter, and we put it out there, and it achieved the prize. So mostly the tools that we use are to generate the price, but sourcing is a major factor of it. And once the important work comes up for sale, it can result in...
But you still have to be on the phone with your bidders.
Certainly.
To drive up the prices.
Not to drive up the prices, but certainly if you are talking to some of the richest people in the country, let's suppose you're talking to just... So currently the biggest buyer in the country is a lady by the name of Kiran Nadar, who is Shiv Nadar's wife. She's one of the largest collectors of Indian art today. And she set up an art museum in Delhi by the name of KNMA. So when you're dealing with her or somebody like herself, then you have to be on the phone with her. It is...
So traditionally, the space of interacting with human beings on a level of a personal interaction is not even going to go when you are...
So sure, she's
online
watching the auction online. She's looking at the bidding happening, but she's on the phone with us just to...
So the debate of selling art online versus offline, it's actually a hybrid model in the end.
Sure, the underbidder was not on the phone with anybody. So the person who actually, and one of the lots I think we created a world record for was Krishan Khanna, and it started the bidding at some 40 lakhs, it went for 1.9 crores. And while one of our team members was on the phone with Mrs. Nadar, this lot was simultaneously being bid on and worldwide bidding, and it did quite well. So we generally shot 20 lots simultaneously. So it doesn't necessarily have to be that we have to be on the phone per lot. So while this was happening and somebody was on the phone with her, the other lots were being bid on by themselves.
So eventually you're saying that it's a hybrid model. And
combination of...
It's a combination of...
And as somebody mentioned, you know, one of the questions was, what is the result of social media and how do you actually measure it?
That's right.
The way I see it is, when you look at an entire gamut of marketing activities, whether it is video, TV, print, social media today, online platform being the most effective as far as the target audience is concerned, because you can actually select the age group, you can select the interest levels, which people, which companies like Facebook can track because of their various analytical scenarios that are available to them. So by targeting the right audience, if I want to look at an audience sitting in Manhattan, in New York, that could be interested possibly in Indian art based on their following and their Facebook activities, I can target that user sitting in Manhattan or sitting in San Francisco or sitting in London, in Mayfair, as close to the area that I would like to target. So it helps. Social media, I mean, if I give a advertisement in Times of India, for instance, the paper will go out to everybody, you know. Whereas if I do my select targeting, I can pick and choose my audience based on my age group. So for me, because art at the level that we deal in is the highest form of luxury. You buy your jewelry for your wife, you buy your cars, you buy your house, you buy your travel lifestyle, you buy your clothes, you buy everything, and then you decide to put a painting on your wall which costs 1 crore. That looks pretty. So it might be historically important, but you have to get to that stage in order to achieve that. And an advertisement in Times of India does not achieve me targeting. It could go to everybody, given the reach. So social media actually helps me target the right audience at an effective price, which works for me.
Right. Jatin, you have actually launched Merchants of Cool in multiple ways. You've done 2 offline exhibitions as well.
Sure.
One was at Phoenix Mills, right, at the Palladium Mall.
Yeah.
And what did you see in terms of the difference in the buying habits, for example, the exhibition, offline and online?
Yeah, so I mean, I think, what we had decided was that Merchants of Cool started off as an experiment to us. We met a lot of people who sort of were advisors in terms of how the SEOs would work or how the social media, actually, you need to go in marketing in social media. And, there were various, set of meetings that we had with people without a clear direction in terms of how, I mean, as much as social media helps, it's also very difficult to kind of penetrate the social media market because, as you know, the attention span of people, I mean, eventually social media also wants them to be able, for you to be able to pay to reach out to those many people. It's an expensive affair. There are so many online stores who are actually spending a lot of money to acquire the audience.
Right.
I mean, the numbers and the stats are all out there, and in acquiring, the final user. And we were at a very nascent stage at that particular time of launching our store. We started with very little at that time, and Palladium as an association was very interesting to us because we realized that it gets about 50,000 footfall. I mean, how there wouldn't have been, a better way for me to establish Merchants of Cool there, and then, I mean, the social media activity further sort of spreads the word. So I think we've been very organic in terms of how we let the word of Merchants of Cool spread. So in terms of buying habits, yeah, we've had equal number of people buying online directly, whether they've been through friends or through people who've spread the word. Interesting videos like the ones that you just saw we made, where it helped people who are interested in basically underwater saw the video and they went through the whole gallery and then bought. And the offline version of what we did as a show at Palladium, that's when we realized, how diverse, the audience out there is to go, and because a lot of people who came out there didn't even know that it's a photograph. They actually thought it's a painting.
Right.
And there were questions being asked about, is it actually a painting or a photograph? So just to make them even aware. So I think this model of educating people, I think offline is phenomenal because the interaction is direct.
Yeah.
Also helps us establish, and the social media activity that you can create through the offline medium further helps us. I mean, today you need to fuel social media with a lot of things as well because, it's so difficult to get the attention of the viewer because there are thousands of posts, as you just mentioned. What do you pay attention to? Either you're just going to flip through or are you going to actually listen to the story? So, I mean, I think we realize that it's very important for us to actually, at this point of time when we're evolving with our idea, to do both. And thereby create a culture, so to say, for people to be able to go online and see it. I mean, till date, a lot of people can appreciate a beautiful picture, but they cannot imagine how it's going to look like when it's on the wall. And that's where, our activities of actually putting it up in a setting and then sharing it actually helps a lot because when they actually see it in the form of, I mean, it's like hundreds of images that you see on interior spaces. You can see a beautiful sofa somewhere, but how it's going to fit into your house, you'll definitely need somebody to actually guide you and advise you, and that's, I think, this model really helps because the experience helps them make the decision much easier.
So again, actually, we are back on the same topic. It's online versus offline. As Tushar mentioned, when he sells very high-value works, he needs to handhold in a way and navigate the collector to finally make the purchase, although the bid has to be put online. And in your case also, which is much more affordable art, you would like to sort of have the experience of exhibiting as well as then going online and purchasing the artwork.
I think the markets are evolving. I think this model would work better.
So nudging the dealer out is, at the moment, not possible.
I don't know whether... I don't really think... First of all, I've never seen them as dealers. I mean, I think they were curators in their own way. So, and we're not here out to...
But wouldn't you say Merchant of Cool is like a gallery space?
It is an online gallery. That's what we call it.
So a dealer is a gallery space, let's say.
So, I think online is the future. And I think given the reach that the potential online segment will penetrate within the country over the next 5-7 years will be, I mean, it's expected to be 25%. So, which you're talking about 250 million, 400 million users. So you're talking about a massive online platform. And today, very few people actually use their laptops or computers. It's all on the phone, and smartphones are cheaper and easily available. So I think, the collector that I was talking about, the Japanese collector, was actually sitting in Zurich during an exhibition and bidding on the painting that sold for 2.2 crores. On his phone.
That's right.
Yeah, so basically, I see the online segment taking it to the next level, and I do believe penetration, the collector sitting in Lucknow, the collector sitting in India, which has not been targeted, it's more international based audiences, NRIs buying massive works and important works. In fact, last week, there was a Akbar Padamsi, which the person who sold it bought it for 1,000 rupees and sold it for 19 crores. He bought
60 years.
60 years,
Just to put it in perspective.
60 years ago, he bought that painting for 1,000 rupees and he sold it last week for 19 crores. And the person who bought it was sitting in New York. So, once it reaches the audience and more people are aware, I think the potential is massive.
So it's accessibility.
Accessibility. Today you're talking about an average master in India selling for 1 crore and a half. You can buy a Hussain. But when you compare this to an average Chinese master, it sells for $20 million starting average, and it can go up to $60 million. $20 million is 140 crores a painting, and going up to $60 million is 300, 400 crores a painting. And you're talking about India, which is right now at 1 crore and a half. Given our limited supply, given our massive cultural history, I think online platform will be the way forward, and prices and markets will develop as things go along.
So in a sense, it's demystifying the art world, which has been shrouded in secrecy for a while and very exclusive. So now it's become more accessible in a way. But the online space is here to stay, but it'll never really replace the physical gallery or the museum. That'll still exist.
I think they'll both go hand in hand, and I think they'll play their individual important roles. And
so the more art we see online, the more desire there is to visit and actually experience the artwork. Sure. Right? Can we open the questions out to the audience?
Thank you, Farah. It was a very interesting panel, and you kept throwing a lot of big numbers, and some of them were quite depressing too, right? The kind of numbers that which we're talking about. We are actually a bit behind schedule because we still have one more session, but if there is a question, I'll just take one very quick question from the audience. Yes, we have one question, please. Okay, let me just walk up to you.
I have a question for Tushar and Jatin both. We didn't actually touch upon art plagiarism. Very recently, I heard about a very well-known...
Can you start again? I didn't hear that.
Art plagiarism, we didn't much touch about that thing. Very recently, I had heard about a fashion, very big fashion brand who started stealing the art of very upcoming artists online, and even the lawsuits didn't help help the artist. So what do you think about that? How, is it how can artists deal with that thing?
The question's about plagiarism. And she mentions that a fashion designer took pictures of an upcoming artist and sort of, is that what you said?
Yeah, not the designer, fashion house, a very big fashion brand actually, global brand.
A fashion brand. They took pictures of an upcoming artist.
No, they actually stole her art off the Instagram, so she used to put it on Instagram, and they stole it off that.
Okay. This is also another story. There's a very famous photographer called Richard Prince, whose works go for over $100,000. And he took pictures from Instagram and actually blew them up and didn't do much about it, and put them in his gallery exhibition of one of the biggest gallerists in the world called Gagosian, and sold them for $100,000. And then he was sued. So there are many, many cases against him. But actually, Jatin had a very interesting thing to say about plagiarism. So would you like to repeat that?
I'm sorry, the audio was not very clear earlier for me to understand your question, actually. But I mean, I think you know, it's sort of difficult to stop these practices. I mean, I think companies have been doing it for years now, trying to, and so is law enforcement trying to work intellectual property, patents, copyrights, several things. There's a lot of gray area still in terms of trying and understanding intellectual property as such, because today when a photographer is commissioned as well, you know, the company wants the intellectual property of that particular image that the company can own, even if it's commissioned. And if you're approaching a photographer as an artist, I mean, I think it's impossible to say if the picture's been created by the artist, how you can actually transfer those intellectual property rights to anyone else. So there are a lot of things. I mean, we are evolving as not only an economy, but also as human beings, you know, to be able to understand. I think it's immoral for any fashion house or a designer to be able to you know, just download a picture, use it for commercial reasons without letting it, without informing the artist himself. So, but there are innumerable number of practices like these which happen, but I don't really see how it may happen in the future. You can't stop this from happening, but it doesn't really, I don't think it stops from anybody trying to, I mean, I have innumerable number of images actually out on Instagram and social media, which I'd like to share with people. I don't think, you know, the end point is about whether I'm able to make a sale of those particular images, but I think the idea is basically to be able to, for people to share as to the kind of work, and I think that brings in, you know, a lot of encouragement when people react to those kind of pictures. But these practices, I mean, I think they're probably out there to last. I mean, I think I mean, you sort of see catfights and wars every single day in newspapers of even a designer, a fashion designer copying another fashion designer as such. How do you stop these practices? I mean, I think it's impossible.
So from the art point of view, in the art world, if you own a painting or a piece of art and do not utilize it for commercial use, so if you want to do a publication of your own painting, or you want to put a painting of Hussein which you own onto your corporate card and send it out to everybody, as long as you're not selling that card, it's allowed to do that. So in the art perspective of things, if I have a painting which is in my collection and I want to send a Diwali card out to my friends, and I utilize that painting on the card and I send it out, you're allowed to do that, as long as you're not retailing the card.
All right, thank you so much, Farah, Justin, Tushar. I'm so sorry we're completely run out of time. I'm sure the audience would love to hear some more. As a token of our love and appreciation, I would request Rohit to just come on stage and do the honors. Thank you.